Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I will give it a second to let everyone into the webinar today. Thank you for joining us for our next edition of our 49er Industry Chat. My name is Noemi Guevara. I'm the Director of Alumni Engagement, and I thank you for joining us today. Before we start, I would like to remind you this session is being recorded and it will live on our website at csulb.edu/alumni. For our chat today, I would like to encourage you to use our Q&A box located above or below your screen to submit any questions for our guest speaker today. And today is my honor to introduce the Honorable James Dabney. The Honorable James Dabney is a Los Angeles Superior Court judge and has been in the California criminal justice system for 38 years. Starting his career as a senior law clerk in the LA District Attorney's Office, then as a deputy district attorney in the DA's office for 19 years. Judge Dabney was then appointed to the bench by Governor Gray Davis and assigned to the Downey Courthouse. After 2 years, he transferred to the Airport Courthouse, where he sat in General Jurisdiction Criminal Court for 10 years. For the past 7 years, Judge Dabney has been assigned to a General Jurisdiction Criminal Court in the Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center, the largest criminal court in the country. Please welcome today's Industry Chat host, the Honorable James Dabney. Judge Dabney, thank you so much for your time today and being in our chat.
My pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So I would like to get started with the beginning. Hear a little bit about your trajectory through Long Beach State. If you attended as a freshman, did you transfer in, and why Cal State Long Beach?
I did attend as a freshman. My trajectory through Long Beach was not a straight linear one. I had a rocky beginning. I was not the greatest student to start off with. Well, I guess you asked the question. I'll tell you, my mother cut me off. I had to go work. I was delivering furniture and realized very quickly that delivering furniture was not my life. Went back to school and applied myself with a little more vigor was a minor in economics and majored in political science there. They had an excellent pre-law department there. I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. Okay. Because I was a debater in high school. Mm-hmm. And that's what led me into it. They had excellent pre-law department. So I took a constitutional law, I took a jurisprudence class. They had a pro seminar in public law, which was Dr. Shireen. I was extremely well prepared when I graduated from Long Beach. And went to law school. After my rocky start, it was a great experience.
Wonderful. Were there any faculty or staff on campus that served as your mentors, or did someone in your family practice law that sparked that interest? My interest in law really, as I said, started when I was, oddly enough, in military school. Mm-hmm. In 8th grade, they started a speech and debate team. And it was run by a young man at the time, Russell Westrup, who was teaching and going to school at night. He's the one that got me involved in that. And that military school was at Signal Hill. So that was Long Beach adjacent. It was in Signal Hill. It was Southern California Military Academy. But then I debated throughout high school, and that's really what sparked my interest in going into law. And then, did you have any mentors, any faculty that you?
Sure, yeah. As I said, Dr. Shireen, and who was the professor who taught? I'm drawing a blank, but our con law professor took some of his students and invited them to his house once a year, and there was Dr. Leiter, who was another very good professor. The faculty there in the political science department, it was really, Long Beach is such a big school, but just like the LA area, you have these communities within it. That was the political science department. I mean, we were as an upperclassman, you developed really kind of close and relationships with the professors and with other students. We even started a informal club called Departments Rising Upperclassmen Nuggeting Knowledgeable Scholars, where we would invite the professors to the Nugget and have a couple pitchers of beer and talk to them about their trajectory and how they got to where they are. Sort of similar to this.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to report political science is a very tight group, and they have a student club that is very active on campus.
Right.
And it's still going. So you graduate. At what point did you start to think, I need to take the LSATs and start to think about what your next steps were going to be?
Well, as I said, I always knew that I wanted to go to law school. So I signed up for the LSAT, I guess it was junior, senior year. And from there went through the application process. I wanted to stay local. I decided to go to Whittier College School of Law, which their law school campus used to be in Hancock Park on 3rd Street. And that's also, it was a relatively small school. It was ABA accredited school. And when I got there, I loved law school. I loved it. A lot of people, that's not their experience, but I really enjoyed it. And as I said, coming from the pre-law department, I was really well prepared when I got to law school and did well while I was there as a result. And really enjoyed the experience, threw myself into it quite vigorously. So I did well, and I was on the law review and became the editor of the law review. I was also on the moot court and did some competition representing Whittier in what was called the trainer competition up at Berkeley, where we won best brief. Anyway, so it was, I really enjoyed the experience.
What advice do you have for our students that might be watching when they start to think about, I want to go to law school, and you see these big institution names and the cost? You just talked about Whittier being a smaller school and a better fit for you.
Right.
What advice do you have for people who think about, when looking for a law school?
Yeah, I think that in terms, first of all, I think it's a great career. There are so many options that you have. I think that, it's a question of where, geography is important. The cost is obviously important. And sometimes, at Whittier, even though it was a private institution, they provided, it was easier for me to get scholarships there. So I ended up, basically having a full ride at Whittier after my second year, and they gave me after my first year, actually. So, that's one approach to take. I don't, it's been so long since I've been in the, looking at law schools. Obviously, if you could get into a state school, go for it. It makes it a lot more manageable financially. Unless you're getting financial aid, scholarships and things of the like. But wherever you can get in, go.
Definitely.
That's my advice.
Yeah. I do have a question from you through the chat. It seems like you were really involved on campus while you were a student. Are extracurricular activities a must for becoming a judge?
I think, yeah, I think, there's two ways to become a judge. One is to get elected and the other is to be appointed. The vast majority of judges are appointed. How that works is that the governor fills in vacant terms. So if a judge retires during their term, we have 6-year terms, that becomes a vacancy. But if a judge fills out their term and then retires, that becomes an open seat. And people run for, tend to run for those and they get elected to that. And they can also run against a sitting judge. I wouldn't advise it. It's not very nice to do that. And also, it's very difficult to beat an incumbent, and LA is a tough town. But so most people are appointed. And yeah, I think they want to look at what kind of community involvement you have. Are you doing something that shows that you are you care about public service, that you care about the profession? They want to know what kind of an individual you are. So those kind of things are helpful in becoming a judge. So being active in the LA County Bar Association or other bar associations, or the professional organizations, being active in the community, being involved in a church or other community or organizations. All those kind of things basically give them a better picture of the person. And usually the governor wants to have a good idea of the type of individual they're sticking on the bench.
Wonderful. And I think this one kind of goes to what you talked about. I assume that in order to be recognized by the governor, you must take a lot of networking and becoming known. What advice do you offer for students on how to do that?
Well, if you want to, as I said, this is related to what I just said. If what you're really looking for is to be on the bench, then I would say get involved in your community and get involved in professional legal organizations. I was a member of the LA County Bar Association's Criminal Justice Section Executive Committee. So I got involved in that and was doing that. In addition to that, we created the Los Angeles Criminal Justice Inns of Court, which is modeled after the English Inns of Court. They have the American Inns of Court have chapters all over the country. We were one of the first that created one that was specific to a practice area as opposed to a geographical area. I was involved in, I did the AIDS ride several times, in raising money for the, AIDS research. And those kind of things, and I think that those are the kind of things that are helpful. And then when you do that, not only does it give the governor the impression that you are involved in the community, but you meet people who are involved in the process that can then help that process, help your application go through the process. Writing letters of recommendation for you. They know somebody who's on the committee that screens the applicants, that kind of thing. So yeah, networking is extremely important if you want to get an appointment through the governor for the bench.
Wonderful. So you started your career as a senior law clerk for the LA District Attorney. Can you share with us a little bit what was that experience like, and then becoming the Deputy District Attorney?
So when I was in law school, I didn't know at the time, really, even as a senior, what kind of law I wanted to practice. I didn't know whether I wanted to be in transactional work, if I wanted to do personal injury, if I wanted to work in the healthcare area, or wanted to be a civil litigator. And I was interviewing with a number of firms, and the district attorney's office had just reinstated their senior law clerk program because they don't always have it. And so they that year were interviewing on campus throughout the country. And they came on campus, and I interviewed, and I got a second interview, and they offered me the job. And I always was, again, because one of the reasons I was interested in laws, I was a debater, so that's sort of natural for litigation. So I thought, yeah, I'll go to the DA's office. And I may stay a couple of years. It'll be good litigation experience, and then I'll go off and do civil litigation or something, to that nature. So came in as a senior law clerk, and worked up. They moved us from assignment to assignment so I'd get an idea. My first job in the clerk as a clerk was working in the major crimes division, which was one of the elite trial divisions, and I was going through and checking transcripts of recordings from at the time, a high-profile murder case. So that was kind of interesting. And then I went to the Beverly Hills court, where we actually did, under supervision, preliminary hearings, and I actually did a misdemeanor jury trial as a law clerk. So it was you get a lot of
very hands-on experience.
Very, very. And then when I passed the bar, they gave all of us a job offer that and we all passed. Everybody in that program passed. Most of us took the job, and became a deputy district attorney. And I thought I was going to be there 2 or 3 years, and 19 years later, I was still there. I mean, and that was because about the time that I was thinking I would be transitioning out is when I'd had a couple of years experience, and it was a blast. It was a great job.
Just love your job.
It was so interesting. You got to do things that are different every day. And being in trial was awesome. It's a young man's game, in my opinion, because it's all consuming when you are in trial. But it was fun, and you were pursuing justice. A prosecutor's job is to do justice. Our first responsibility is to do justice. So we don't, we're not zealous advocates for our client. Everybody else is, but prosecutors are not supposed to be. Their primary goal is to do justice. So that's pretty cool, and to get paid for it is on top of it. So I was having way too much fun to transfer out at that point in time. And then after 10 years, I'm still there, and I'm thinking, oh my God. But that's when I started thinking that eventually I'd like to be on the bench.
Wonderful. And during those 19 years, you never thought about, I know you were having so much fun and enjoying your job, of going to the other side and opening your own firm, that ever crossed your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it did. I never considered it seriously. I was not a true believer. I believe in the system. I believe in the adversarial system of justice. I think both sides have to do their job. And so I could have easily done defense work and loved it. Mm-hmm. And I think, first of all, I didn't want to open up my own office because I didn't want to work that hard. I didn't want to work at drumming up business. I just wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to concentrate on that. I didn't want to concentrate on getting clients and getting clients to pay and getting, and having, so I know people who did and loved it and became very, very successful doing it. I just had a case with a former law school classmate who was a DA for about 5 years. He and another DA left, and he has a very, very successful practice. I wasn't as concerned about money as I was. You make enough money so that you make a comfortable living. you make a decent living, a good, very good living. You're not going to get like super wealthy, but you are comfortable, and which was important. And to me, the work and also the time. To me, it was very important to be able to have my own life as well, to have a personal life. So public service is a great way to go because in terms of law, as far as I'm concerned, because you get to do meaningful work, you get paid well for it, and you get to live your life. You know, I have a lot of friends that went off into large firm practices and private practice, and you know,
Burned out.
they didn't love their work as much as I love my work. They loved their paychecks more than they loved my paycheck. But you know, time to me was more important overall. The time I spent at work and the time I spent away from work. So.
Wonderful. So I do have a couple more questions here. If someone wants to be a judge, must you first start in the DA or be a defense attorney first?
No, all you need to be in the bar. You need to be a lawyer. So there are a lot of attorneys who work in civil practice. Some of them that you know, some in litigation, but many in very varied backgrounds. So a good colleague, friend of mine, came. She was a First Amendment lawyer. And she had clients in her law firm like the LA Times and things like that. And then there were people who did transactional work, who worked in large national law firms that decided they wanted, but when they transitioned out of that they wanted to be on the bench. So no, but you have to have, I believe it's 10 years.
Okay.
You have to have 10 years experience as a lawyer.
Wonderful. And I did get a question. Where is the Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center? I know we were talking about it before the call.
It's in the Civic Center. We are right across the street from the from City Hall. Grand Park is right next to us. Grand Park is the area that's right in front of the City Hall and runs all the way up to the Music Center. So we're in downtown in the Civic Center.
What does a typical day look like for you?
So my court is what's called the General Jurisdiction Court. So when I first started, there were two local courts. There was the Superior Court and the Municipal Court. California did away with the Municipal Court. And basically everybody who was on a municipal court was automatically made a Superior Court judge. So municipal courts used to handle misdemeanor trials, misdemeanor cases. Then they also acted for magistrates on felony cases where they would do the preliminary hearings. All that work is now done in what's called the limited jurisdiction court. The old superior courts were the trial courts, the felony trial courts. They also did, in terms of civil, there was a cutoff. So if it's under $25,000, it's limited. If it's more than $25,000, it's general. So I sit in a general jurisdiction felony court. So I'm in a direct calendar court, which means that my day I get up and when I go on the bench, I have a calendar which consists of cases from the time that they're arraigned. So after the preliminary hearing, they're arraigned in the trial court on a charging document. It's called the information. So after you've had your preliminary hearing, you come up to the general jurisdiction court. You'd be arraigned in that court, and then that case goes through the process. So I would do the arraignment. I do pre-trials, motions, deal with discovery. A lot of the work involves talking about seeing if the case could settle or not settle. Those usually are discussions that primarily take place between the defense and the prosecutor, but I obviously get involved to see if I can facilitate things. I sometimes need to twist one arm or another to get them to see the light. And then if there is a resolution, I take the pleas. So I inform them of their rights, and then I will sentence them. And then for people that are on probation, I have progress reports to see how they're doing on probation, or if they violate probation. Those cases are set in my court. So I deal with cases, my calendar, that deal from the charging document to pre-trials, to trials, to post-trial matters. So if I'm in trial, I do my calendar up until about 10:30, or about 10:15, and then I start my jury trial from 10 until 12, bring them back at 1:30, and then we go from 1:30 to a little after 4 o'clock every day. So when that happens, I'm not able to spend as much time on my calendar trying to move things around, because I have to get to the jury. So that's what a typical day looks like.
So with COVID, we're living through this pandemic. How did that change your court, your everyday? Because I know at one point you guys were doing cases over Zoom.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. It was a crazy time. So, but there have been some changes that have resulted from that I think are positive. So it was pretty rare to have telephonic appearances or those kind of things in criminal. But now you see it more often. So if there's not a lot that's going to happen on a case, the attorney's just going to come in and say, I need more time. We want to put this over for another 30 days. They could do that now if they want on it's what we call it WebEx. We don't use Zoom, but it's a similar type of platform. So that's facilitated things, makes it a little easier for attorneys. They don't have to run around all over the county to make their appearance, just to come in and say, I need more time. Or they don't need to like hire somebody or ask a friend to come in and stand in for them to do that, which is what they had to do before. So that's one aspect that we see people utilizing that more. I have done court trials where a lot of the witnesses and the defendant, actually, it was a sexually violent predator case, which is a civil proceeding. So he's called not a defendant, he's called a respondent, where the respondent is at Coalinga State Hospital. And rather than being transported to county jail and having to sit in jail while his trial is going on, he could stay at Coalinga Hospital and appear remotely. So that was kind of interesting. You'd have the attorneys in the courtroom, me in the courtroom, and then the witnesses testifying on WebEx with the defendant on WebEx. So everybody has to be able to hear everything. The court reporter has to be able to hear everything and take everything down. Was it perfect? No, but it worked. It worked. So that's a thing that's changed with COVID, but that would have never happened before.
Do you think it will stay in place moving forward?
Yeah, actually, they've changed certain laws that allow for people like in state prison who have post-conviction matters that are in court, or say that they need to be resentenced because there was a mistake in the sentencing or because of a change in the law. Rather than having to bring them down from state prison into county jail and bringing them into court, we could arrange to have them appear by Zoom. So by video. So they make a video appearance, and they could see everybody in the courtroom. We could see them, their lawyers here, and we can then proceed without, with them appearing by video. So that's something that's been incorporated statutorily for certain types of proceedings. And they're actually talking about, there's a bill right now in the California State Assembly there, in the legislature, to extend the ability to do remote trials and hearings in civil. There was an emergency law that passed that sunsets in June of next year. They're trying to make it permanent, or at least extend the sunset. Sunset just means the authorization of the statute dies if it's not reenacted prior to the sunset. So yeah, there have been changes in that regard. And the plaintiffs bar and the defense bar, they're all for it. They really like it. That ability. They don't, at least have the option. Court reporters are not really happy with it, but
Hard to hear.
so we'll see what happens with that law. So there are significant changes that resulted from COVID.
Wonderful. So, questions about skills. What skills do you think are important for someone that is interested in going into law and maybe one day becoming a judge, that they should, make sure that they work on now and have solid foundation for it?
Writing. Your English and grammatical skills are important, but for law school, for getting into law school, for doing well in law school, it's being able to communicate on the page. So yeah, I think that's why English majors do well in law school. The other thing I would say, in terms of good skills, philosophy. Law grew out of philosophy. The profession academically grew out of the school of philosophy. So, in terms of logic classes and things of that particular nature, that would really be, that's also very helpful. Very helpful in taking the LSAT. It's a lot of, basically logic type questions. Yeah. So those kind of things, I would take a logic class, and then I would do everything I could to improve my writing. Those are the two things that I would recommend in that regard.
Wonderful, thank you for that. And then how do you stay abreast of emerging trends? Like, do you have to do continuing education? I assume you read a lot.
Yeah, yes, we have, there's a court rule that requires judges to take a certain number of hours of continuing legal education. They can't force it because we're constitutional officers, but they say judges should do this number of hours. Most judges, if not all of them, do way more than the required minimum. So on our court, we have a very active judicial education section. It's made up of a committee of judges, and then they get other judges to do programs. We usually have 2 or 3 a week in different areas of law, keeping us abreast of significant changes, practices, etc. So because we're such a large court, we have our own body that does this work. Statewide, there's something called CJER, which is the Committee on Judicial Education and Research, which is the branches, the state branches education section. So I do a lot of teaching for both. So I teach here certain courses. I teach for CJER, and then there's a professional organization called the California Judges Association. They have webinars where they provide education. They have an annual and a semi-annual conference where we have classes. I teach at those, I attend those. So those, we staying abreast is extraordinarily important. And the law has been changing so much, especially in criminal, constantly changing in the last decade. The legislature has been very active the last several years. So there's a lot of that going on.
Wonderful. What's your favorite and least favorite part about being a judge?
What's my favorite part about being a judge? Being called Your Honor. No.
For life.
Yeah. I would say the interplay in the courtroom. Right now, fortunately, I have a very good staff. The lawyers are they tend to get along. That's a lot of fun. And the interplay when you're doing a really, when you get those cases where you have an interesting legal issue and you have good lawyers on each side, and you get to see, they argue and they submit, their briefs, and it's intellectually stimulating, and I really enjoy that a lot. Being able to have a difference in somebody's life, and actually helping them get back on their feet and turn it around. I've spent so much of my time housing people for a gazillion years. It's nice that there are other aspects of the job where you could do something that's a little more rewarding and probably beneficial for everybody concerned. The most difficult part of my job, some sentencings are really hard. I tell people that I earn my paycheck for 10% of what I do. The other time they shouldn't be paying me. I'm having so much fun. But for 10% of the time, I earn every penny, because you have to make difficult decisions that affect people's lives, and that could be very kind of gut wrenching. Luckily, those are not. I don't deal with those things every day. I don't deal with those things every month. I deal those kind of like horrible things probably every other month. Yeah. Sitting through victim impact statements.
That's tough.
That's hard.
Yes.
That's hard.
I've sat through some of those, and that's hard. I can even imagine doing it for a living.
That's where I earn my keep.
Yes. So want to know, do you get to hire any of the clerks? And then if you do, what do you expect from them?
Yeah, I've had over the years, I've had a number of summer law clerks. The LA court has a program for people who are interested in becoming a clerk. And they could either do it through the court itself by applying through the court, or they've applied directly through me. Somebody knew somebody who was a Whittier College student, law school student, whose sister knew a friend of mine, and so I said I brought him on, and that has been that's one way of doing it. Getting in contact with the judge directly, and that involves some research and writing. Again, the writing part is important, and also it's a learning experience. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of a two-way street in terms of with the law clerks. It's a great opportunity to learn, and I love teaching, so I like that aspect of it. And then there's some work that I could do that help that they could provide by writing memos, summarizing certain things, doing legal research, things of that nature. They also even have, I think, in our court, even has internship programs for people in undergrad.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. Well, so changing gears a little bit, what do you do for fun when you're not being a judge?
Okay, I am an avid cyclist.
Okay.
So I ride into work about 2 or 3 times a week, if not more. And I have a gravel bike and I have a road bike. And I'll go up from my house on the west side, and I'll go up to the hills up to Mulholland and go off into the valley and then up through Griffith Park. I get up early and, ride for a couple of hours, and I ride on the weekend. So I'm an avid cyclist, love it. I like to ski. I like backpacking. So I usually take a trip every summer and I go backpacking. I like to cook, and I collect wine.
Oh,
and occasionally drink it.
Sometimes. So what recommendations do you have for someone, that really wants to have a healthy work-life balance with a career like yours?
I think that I think law is a great career. I really do. I think it's difficult to have that work-life balance if you want to go work for a national law firm. They pay you a huge amount of money for your soul. You work very, very hard, and some people love that kind of existence. That's not for me. I think it's very important to be able to work, go in, enjoy what you're doing, and then go home. And forget about it. That's hard to do when you're in trial if you're a litigator, because you eat, drink, and sleep it for 24 hours a day when you're actually in trial. But then one of the things about being on the bench that's great is that I have no dog in the fight. When the court day is over, I go home.
Right.
I don't stress about what I don't have to worry about putting the witnesses together, what the argument's going to be. So it's very easy for me to maintain that work-life balance. As a lawyer, it was a little more work, but I'm an exercise fanatic, and I think it's really, really important that you take care of yourself and start building that into your regimen and your lifestyle early. Stay fit. Work out. Do not sacrifice the time that it takes to work out, several times a week, because you want to do work, because you're busy, or you have to do this, you have to do that. You need to prioritize that. You'll be healthier, you'll be happier, and you'll be more productive in the long run. So I mean, it sounds silly, but man, exercise. Start now and do it regularly, and make it a priority.
It's worked for you. You've been in this industry for 38 years, and you're still very excited to be in it.
And I'm excited to retire.
That's what was going to be my next question.
That too.
What's next for you?
I am going to be eligible as a judge to be fully vested in our retirement program. You have to be over 65 and work 20 years. So I will hit that milestone in January of next year. Sometime after that, I will retire. And then my plan is to, we have what's called the Assigned Judges Program, where retired judges apply to be in this program, and then when a judge is needed, you would come in and act in as sort of like a substitute teacher. You're a substitute judge.
Okay.
And the neat thing about that is that you could do it anywhere in the state, because it's a program that's administered by the Chief Justice through the Judicial Council. So you could sign up and say, yeah, I'll go to San Luis Obispo or Napa or Sacramento or Stanislaus or whatever. You can tell them all, you check off the boxes of where you'd be willing to sit by assignment, and then if they need somebody, they may contact you and do that. So there are a lot of, I would like to travel more.
Right. You're going to be like a traveling nurse, but you're a judge.
Yeah, right. But I would like to work a little less, not stop working, but work less, travel more, and so that's the next stage. And then I wouldn't mind. I've kicked around the idea of teaching.
Right, I was going to be like, what do you consider teaching?
Yeah, I did teach a couple semesters at Cal State LA, okay. And that's something that I would consider doing. That's like, at least for a semester. I wouldn't do it both semesters.
Right, definitely. And I know we're up against time, but I have one more question as we're coming up on election season. What are tips and advice you have for voting for judges in the upcoming elections?
First and foremost, I would say look at the ratings from the county bar, because they go through the similar vetting process through the county bar that if you were getting appointed. So they interview you, then they go out and they interview. You have to put in a bunch of names if you're a candidate and you want to take part. And then they reach out to people who've done their most recent cases. So they go through a vetting process. So the first step is look at that at the LA County Bar ratings. So if you see somebody that's exceptionally well qualified, which is very, very rare, you know you're fine to vote. If you're in a race and one is not qualified, or one is just qualified and one is well qualified, vote for the one that's well qualified. That's the easiest gauge. When you have two well qualified candidates, you know, you can't go wrong.
Right.
Name you like.
Exactly.
Or the LA Times does, I believe, will make recommendations, endorsements, candidate endorsements for the judges. That's another source to look at. So, so first, look at the qualification rating. Second, you can look at the LA Times if you wish. Go onto their websites. They all have websites to see if there's anything about that. You know, judges can't campaign the same way, but you get a flavor of the type of person that they are, and do they match up with who you want to be. So those are the three things I would say, because it really is very difficult to know who to vote for. If all of us were on the ballot, your ballot would be like a book, because like there's 120 judges up for re-election.
Oh, wow.
And only if you're contested do you appear on the ballot. So because I was up for re-election this year, I'm not on the ballot because nobody ran against me. So I'm deemed elected.
Oh,
So I don't have to worry about it. And
yeah.
most of them don't. But the few seats that are, you know, people don't have a clue who these people are. So
You don't. You receive
yeah,
your booklet and you're
look
like,
at the
okay.
LA County Bar first and foremost. Then from there, you could go, you know, if they're both well qualified, you can't go wrong. But then from there, you could check out the LA Times, or you could check out their web pages. They all have web pages.
Judge Dabney, I know we're up against time, but any final remarks before we sign off today?
No, this has been fun. For those of you who are interested in a career in law, I think I love law school, as I said. I think it's a great career. There are so many different things you could do with a law degree. Not all of them involve practicing law. And then I would urge, for those of you who are interested, that public service, a public law agency, is something that you should consider, unless you're an absolute crazy workaholic or want to get really, really, really rich, in which case go off somewhere else. But public service is a rewarding and a wonderful route to take. And that includes a number of different avenues: criminal, there are civil, the city attorney's office. If you're lucky enough to get those positions, they're really, I think, a great way to go.
Well, we thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you sharing your experience and your knowledge with our students and our alumni today. And we look forward to welcoming you to campus soon.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining us on this next edition of our industry chats, and please visit our website or follow us on social media to learn about our future chats. Thank you. Bye.